I'm good now. You know, yeah.
Only at a Comic-Con.
Yeah. Awesome. Where are you guys all from?
Ohio.
Ohio? All right, cool.
New York.
New York, nice.
Chicago adjacent.
Okay, cool. I wouldn't have you just said Chicago. I'm like,
We're Northwest Indiana, so that's why we always say Chicago.
okay. Got it.
And you're from Nebraska, right?
I am.
I did community
Yeah.
theater in Nebraska when I was a teenager.
Really? Where in Nebraska?
Lincoln.
Yeah. Lincoln is, I'm about 2 hours from Lincoln, so I am in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, its significance is that it has no significance. That's that's why we're there. There's no like, come here and see some tourist thing. There's no, it's just, it's very quiet, so it's good.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Watch your dog run away for 3 days.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Do we wait for We're gonna just dive in?
Yeah, we could dive in.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. What can I tell you?
So, can you break down why was it chosen for Liz to be the central part of the plot twist with Red?
Say that one more time. Sorry, I was half listening.
No worries, it's all right. Can you break down why was it chosen for Liz to be the central part of the plot twist with Red?
The central part of the plot twist. Just in general, you mean?
Yes.
In the body of the show? You know, can I break that down? I mean, that's really the answer to the show at the end of the day. You know, why her? That's the big question. So I don't know if I can. I don't know how I can really speak to that. That's a tricky one. Let's just say she is unique and special to him, and I can't even make anything up. I can't tell you. I'm going to give everything away if I tell you anything. So I'm sorry.
Okay.
You spoke in your panel about having an end point in mind, how you have
Yeah.
to tell a story with the beginning and the ending, and being that you guys just got renewed for a 7th season, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
You have these brackets, and knowing that you have to hit certain points along the way, but filling in that space while developing character and while hitting all of the necessary marks for storytelling. How do you keep all of that functioning?
You know what? It's difficult at times. We have a lot of very smart writers. We have a lot of. There are emails. There are books. There are notes on walls that in the writers' room that sort of keep us true to our mythology. And so we're constantly, if we're breaking a story, we're like, hey Sam, can you come up and tell us in 1993 where was, like trying to figure out that puzzle is very tricky, and it is very difficult to stay true to it. And I don't think we've broken it. I think we've been able to navigate. Sometimes it limits the stories we can tell. Sometimes it's more difficult to. Sometimes we want to tell a story that would seem normal to the audience, but if you look back at it and when the show's all over, you go, well, that wouldn't make sense. So sometimes it limits the stories we can tell, but it is a complex puzzle that we're constantly trying to navigate. So, yes.
And how much of that is like, we can break it a little bit. If for the sake of this story, we can maybe bend the rules some.
Sometimes we can reverse engineer things. Sometimes if we say, like we really want to tell this story, well, we haven't answered what that story point was. I guess we could maybe adjust that. But for the most part, there's a couple people in our writers' room who have minds like a steel trap, and they know, and they're very good at it. I'm like, just trying to keep up with everyone else there. But there's a very specific mythology, a very specific timeline, and that dictates the stories we tell.
I'm sure you're aware that your fans are super passionate. I was just put into a fan room recently, so I can get more of an idea.
Yeah.
And like the theories are insane.
And
So
very
have
disparate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all kinds of different, yes.
So have you gone in and looked and said, that might be good to throw in?
Well, today, this woman threw out this theory. I was like, okay, I hadn't heard of that. That sounds pretty good, Yes, I love going online. The thing that's very different about TV than movies, you don't get to go sit down with an audience and watch the TV show. It's a very singular experience, and so I love being able to sort of look at what people are saying about it, comment threads and fan theories. They don't ever really determine the story we're going to tell. The story is the story, and we move forward on that. Sometimes if people really respond to a character, respond to something, it's like, oh, that kind of worked. Let's do that. People like Glenn. Cool. We thought that worked. We thought that was good. But if people really like that character, it makes it a little easier to go right toward that character. But mostly it's just satisfying. Oftentimes I'm just like, did people track that? Did they understand what that episode was? And it's great to go, okay, that made sense. I watch the episodes with my wife, and I'm always like, I have to pause, and I'm like, tell me what's happening. Tell me who is that guy? She's like, oh my God, do I have to? Here's what's happening. Here's who the bad. I'm like, okay, great. You're tracking this. Let's keep watching. So I'm paranoid about that. But yeah, I love the fan theories.
Now, since you just said you watched the episode with your wife,
yeah.
Since you and her watched the show, what is her favorite episode?
Her favorite episode?
Yes.
I would have to ask her. I don't know. I don't know. Now you've had two questions that I haven't been able to answer. I feel terrible. I'm like, I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find out and get back to you.
So how much time do you spend researching the history of criminality and particular criminals throughout the time of this show in particular?
Yeah, mostly, some of the characters are taken from things that have happened in real life. We've had, the stew maker was a real criminal who was in prison in Mexico. I'm trying to think. We've had other, like the troll farmer was a network, which is long before sort of fake news. We had the troll farmer, who was a group of people who were sort of putting out fake information, so you could subvert attention so a crime could happen somewhere else. So a number of the blacklisters have their root in some sort of article that we've read or something that's happening. Another example is we had a guy, Crispin Crandall was the guy's name, and he was trying to cryogenically freeze people in sort of a Noah's Ark so he could reboot society after the end of the world. And his motive, perfectly legitimate plan, and his sort of methodology came from the idea that there is, this idea of the sixth extinction, that humanity is the plague that will end humanity, and so that was woven into his, the way he thinks and his methodology. But again, like I said, maybe in the panel, we don't do a lot of ripped from the headlines kinds of stories, but we're constantly researching, we're constantly fact checking our, not only our dates and the mythology, but also sort of what would really happen, from our FBI consultant to our researchers who are finding out, when somebody dies on the show or we're having an operation, are we doing this the right way? We work hard to try to keep it as grounded as it can in the Blacklist universe.
Is there any celebrity you want to come on and guest star as another big name criminal that you're kind of brewing up?
There's always been a short list of some of those people that I'm like, maybe one day. We've been super fortunate, between Alan Alda and Stacy Keach and David Strathairn. It's a great list of people when I look back on it. But people that I like, Christopher Walken. Come on, he would be great. I love Dwight Yoakam. I have this fascination that Dwight Yoakam, the singer, would be great on the show. Lyle Lovett, couldn't be better. He would fit perfectly into our universe. So I don't know. There's a number of those that we'll find in time.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
No, you're great. Your turn.
Now, can you describe the character progression from season 5 to season 6?
For Red or for
everyone?
Yeah, for everyone. Well, I think what is different from 5 to 6 is that for the first time, Liz is sort of ahead of Reddington, and she has this secret. She knows that she's the one who, turned him into the police, and knows his true identity, and that is a shift. A shift in who's ahead of who, and it is going to make for some really great episodes in the back half of the season.
With your work on this show, focusing on Liz as your sort of main character, and with your work on Taking Lives, and you have a lot of sort of female-focused stories.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about the way that having stories that are headed off by women now is affecting both the way that film and television are being produced and what people are willing to put money toward, and toward what stories are being told?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very wild to watch it happen. It's a healthy and fascinating thing to watch happen in Hollywood. Like I had mentioned in the panel, I remember pitching stories that had female leads, both Taking Lives and. The Call was a story that I did with a buddy, Rich DeVideo. Perfect Stranger, it was a Halle Berry movie. And I remember, again, this is 15, 20 years ago, but I remember it sort of being whispered to me that we don't do those. Those movies don't really get made. Audiences don't come out for them. There's not a big, it's a smaller group of casts that you're able to bank the movie with, and I thought it was ridiculous. I thought, why am I, it still sometimes can be frustrating, and so I think it's a healthy thing that is happening. We're trying hard to, both with female directors on our show and in the casting. It's a little awkward being up there with a bunch of dudes, like we were sort of missing some of the females there. But I don't know. I just think it's with Liz and telling the story through her point of view. We're trying and trying to. We talked to Megan about this a lot. Sort of who her character is, how she responds. It's baked into the cake of the show is a little bit of a hiccup in that. Red is sort of the master criminal who has all the answers and all the secrets, and oftentimes I'm sure it feels like she's 2 steps behind and she should be operating in a different way. But that's the DNA of the show. If she's 6 steps ahead all the time, the answers, the show kind of comes unraveled, and so that can be frustrating for us at times. But I think we've really worked hard to put her in the driver's seat this season specifically and the end of season 5, and hopefully we'll continue to build that out.
What can we expect for the season finale? If you could give us a little
That's a third question I'm not going to be able to answer. Season finale, I'll tell you this. We have introduced in episode 12 a big shift in the storytelling for the season. We've been telling a rather small story with Red in prison, small in scope. I mean, it's big in emotion, fighting for his life, the death penalty, and sort of unlocking the back half of the season. He now knows there is a conspiracy afoot. It goes to the highest, powers of government, and he just doesn't know what it is. So we now have to sort of unravel this story in the back half of the season, which is going to be I promise, an unexpected. It's not going where you think it is. Even when we get a couple episodes in, it's wherever you think it's going, that's not where it's going. It's going to be a good, surprising turn, I think.
What would you tell your fans, like, where to put their thinking caps, basically, for what's coming?
Where to put their thinking caps? Well, I think on one hand, I think it's a bit of a relief to have Liz and Red together emotionally. It's always hard. There's a yin and a yang there that, they tend to fluctuate. At times they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, and at times they're very close. And this is a time where they're probably closer than ever, and yet she has secrets, and he is bound and determined to find out who put him in prison. And so we have a very emotional story that is still unraveling. But as far as the fans, I think I would just say buckle up and put your chin strap on, because the back half of the season is going to be full of, it's energetic, it's full of, there's a great mystery at the center of it, and I think a great conclusion that is going to pivot us forward into season 7.
That on a cliffhanger.
There you go, there's the cliffhanger, yeah. Anything else?
She said that was last, but you kind of walked away. So.
We got to wrap it up, but
What's the best cosplay you've seen in this entire C2E2 show so far?
You know what? I don't know who half the people are. I just keep taking pictures of them. I have a picture. There's a woman with a clock on her back or some sort. I don't know who that was. And then somebody had like white, pure white eyes. It looked like visual effect. I have no idea, but I've been taking a bunch of pictures, especially up here. They're fascinating. The Freddie Mercury was the only one I had to have my picture with. I thought that's pretty cool.
have you done
Big
comic
Queen
conventions
fan.
before?
You know, we went to Comic-Con, and that was the only one when the show launched. That was the only one I've been to, and this seems. I know it's not as big, but it seems just as massive. So it's cool, super cool. Thank
Now in this moment he says no, and I'm like, well, I gotta trust they know the end, they know where they're going with this. But it's little things like that that kind of ripple the waters for me as far as the continuity, as far as who Dembe is. But like I said, my brain is kind of scrambled and I can't even keep up with all the twists and turns. It's probably one of those shows where, just like Game of Thrones, like I just started all over from season 1, and then I pick up and connect the dots. I'm probably going to have to do that when this show is over, to connect the dots.
Get a spreadsheet.
It's a little easier for me because I have a recurring part. I'm not at every episode, so I think I've done 11 or 12 episodes now. So it's a little easier, but I think at the same time, you know, the information that you get from the script and then you live it out in front of the camera, which I'll say it comes with you prepare with a structure. I mean, it's like playing music. You got to learn the notes before you can be free with the notes and play it from your heart. So, but I feel that, so that takes a lot of home for me. So I don't have, my headspace is not taken up with what's my next line or what am I saying here? What does this mean? Or what am I doing with the language? What's my action? I got to know all that. So my headspace can be taken up with Glenn thoughts. But I think that information that you accumulate as you go, it continues to fill things out and deepen the part, and deepen the relationships, which to me are, you know, everything. Relationships as they are in life.
Is there anything that you'd like the writers to actually put in for your character specifically? Is that a
I
loaded
would
question?
love to see the interaction between Dembe and his daughter's mother. You know, just whatever that relationship is or was, I would just like to see that conversation.
Okay, I just go right along with that. Glenn's mother, because he's talked about a lot and over the 5 years, and she's talked about a lot, and you know, there's been some possibility that we may see her at some point. I don't know. I know there's a lot for them to figure out in terms of not only making the storyline of each episode work, and then each character's storyline within those episodes. So there's character development, but also the over how all that connects to the season storyline. So if that can work into that storyline someday, I would love that. Love to really see the mother.
How long does it take for you to get into character?
I think after 6 seasons, you walk around in character. I was talking to the people before this, and I said I think this show and the creators and the writers have done a great job between the marriage between who we are as individuals and who the characters are. And after a while, it's just kind of become blended, so that, I mean, for me, I have an accent, and every once in a while I'll hear it come out just walking around. But it's for me, for Dembe, for Hisham, it's almost like kind of like this perfect marriage. So there is no let me get into character for this. You know, we have 6 seasons of history, and all of that's already in my body and my system. So it's not that much work about getting in character. Of course, you have to be fresh what the scene is about, what you're doing in that moment, but it's not a lot of that much work for me to get in character for Dimbe.
Yeah, for me, I just, again, I mean, it's if you've been doing this for a lot of years, you really recognize the writing, and it's wonderful if you go, oh, I can trust this, and then if you do a lot of homework, you trust that writing. So I don't, for myself, worry about staying in the character. Some things I have, things that are more heavy, or deeply troubled, or kind of close off a little bit just to kind of stay with myself. But this guy, I don't, because he's so spontaneous and outspoken. But so I don't go around as Glenn, that's for sure. But the interesting thing is I have noticed on days where I've had a lot of words and speeches and a lot of scenes where I've had a long day on the show. This stuff tends to get in your body because you're actually doing it. You're repeating it. You're doing several takes sometimes, and I'll come home and my wife will say, "Why are you so loud tonight?" She said, "You're so loud and you're just talking nonstop, and it's just like you're saying things that are almost inappropriate. It's like, what is that about?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, the kind of a little bit of Glenn got into me. Hasn't quite gone on vacation."
Yeah, I would say the opposite. I tend to talk low, and everybody saying speak up. And then I know the other challenge for me also is when, and I know it's not an issue for this show, but if I audition for something else, I find it very hard to break out of just the physical mannerisms of Dimbe, the tone and the cadence of Dimbe, and it takes a lot more work to do that, to step into other shoes, because I've been doing this so long. And I remember, I like to read up on other actors and their process and what they're doing. And I remember reading about the actor who played in the TV show Everybody Hates Chris. And he spoke about how he had to take some time off after that show. Like maybe a year of just studying with his coach to break out of doing 3 or 4 seasons of that show so that he could move on and do something else. So that's the only thing that sticks in my head. It's not more about getting in character for this show. It's just when you audition and when you do other things, it's breaking out of that character and opening up and doing something else.
It's interesting, kind of a semi-segue, but at the same time related to that. I was doing I was a regular on another show a couple of years ago in their second season. The show recurring the first season, regular the second. He was a very repressed, deeply troubled man, repressed and depressed. And as the season went on, I kept thinking, I can't avoid what your body is telling you through the writing. It feels like he's headed for suicide. And then the writers called me and said, "Oh man, we hate to tell you, but he's going to commit suicide last season." I said, "I knew it." Last episode of the season. But the interesting thing about that is I was doing 2 or 3 episodes that season of Blacklist, and the producers of both shows knew each other, so they worked out the schedule. So I've been playing this guy who's, cerebral, troubled, and I'm like, yay. And you kind of walk away feeling that energy. You're trying to let it go at night, and I get to go play Glenn tomorrow. He's loud and says anything that's on his mind. So it was a real liberation,
We're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Very cool.
We're super excited.
Colleague. Colleague.
Yep, colleague.
Supposed to do this for no. You know what? They asked us to do Instagram
Takeover.
takeover.
More towards him.
Towards me?
Towards.
You towards Harry?
Yeah, I think we'll go over here.
Perfect. So anyway, no, keep doing what you're doing. Hello.
Hello.
Spiegel and Spiegel. The mirror in the mirror.
By the way, your tie is awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Tim Cotton. This is the clothing. Very cool. And the jacket. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for being with us today. We talked in the panel about your character recognizing Red in the first season. The season 1 film, it says that's him. And then the revelation that Red is not who he says he is in the later season.
Well, I don't know that.
Or may not be. But justifying all of that enormous length of time and all of that information over such a period of time within each character and with the mystery and trying to keep track of what you know from watching the show and what you know as a character. Do you have like spreadsheets or
You know, I have Amir Arison. And he's like, honestly, he's like an encyclopedia of the Black. I swear to you. This man knows every episode, every Blacklist, he can call it out. It's like a kind of, he's I don't want to say savant because I don't think that's politically correct anymore. But
It's rusty now. We're a lot of episodes in. We're 120 something episodes in. I have to go to IMDb and get yes.
yeah, it's
memory
funny.
trigger?
But I think, honestly, it doesn't matter, as I said on the panel, it doesn't matter who the man is, what his name is. He is a tremendous tool for law enforcement. And we're gonna keep working with him as long as he's willing to work with us because he's saving lives.
For Good Harry, how do you feel about being made into a custom pop figure?
Oh, wow. I had seen that. That's not real. Somebody put that together.
Somebody created this of you specifically.
That's the first time I've seen it. I like it. He's a handsome doll right there. I'm a bobblehead fighter. No, that's great. That's
Are you saying
overnight.
Funko needs to make some?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying Funko needs to make these now?
Heck yeah. Yeah. Don't you? I like it. I like the eyes. They're very big.
With the level of passion in your fans, people would buy those.
I think so.
That's really cool.
Now, since the show started, the fan base has grew. What's your best fan interaction you two have ever had?
With this
Best
Yes.
show?
fan interaction. There's been a myriad of fan interactions that are.
If it's one that comes in mind.
I don't know why I'm thinking of this one. I was in Central Park walking and I was on my phone and I looked up and I was in a hug. And it was a woman from Chile. It was a bit shocking at first. And her 2 daughters. And we love the show so much. We love your character. I think I'm doing an Italian accent now, but Chile, imagine it in a Chilean accent. It was a little inappropriate. She started kissing my neck and to take pictures, and all the daughters, it was very affectionate and bizarre, and I was like, so it threw me off. But I remember us being like, wow, there is a real familiarity and love for these characters. I don't know if that was the best story to tell. It's bizarre. Yeah.
Mine is just on the panel recently, just today. We were sitting there, somebody came up and asked a question. This particular person, her name is Jennifer Karam. She's a huge fan of the show. She's created a kind of shadow, Blacklist light, as it were, story of her own. But that began as a fan interaction with me. And to see that she has taken that and made that into an action that is making her own material and content, her own series. Because she is a truly devoted aficionado of the Blacklist. And so I would say just because of that alone, I would have to say that's number 1.
I want to piggyback. I want to amend my answer. I want to add two. I'm working on a documentary now, and as a result of the Blacklist, and some family members that are the subjects of my documentary having seen it, there was an immediate trust and enthusiasm, and like, oh, this person is really doing something interesting in show business, and we trust this person. We like it. So to have that immediate trust to come into their home and share so much with me, and now we've become quite close friends. I would actually say that has been the best, by far and away the best fan interaction, because they really have given me quite a bit, and I have the Blacklist to thank for that, for sort of forging that initial impression.
And with your engagement on Twitter and with the miscellaneous social media with your extremely dedicated fans, do you feel that that supports your character choices in the role in any way?
Well, the writers really decide the character choices.
Sure.
We're in service to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opinions out there, and it's funny. I feel like they should be tagging the writers, but they tend to tag the actor playing the part. They're like, "Why would you do that, Aram?" Amir Arison. I was like, "Ask Jon."
The face.
Last night, my character's in a sort of a tough spot with Samar, and not knowing how to help her and protect her, and trying to do the right thing. And it's kind of there's no way to win the situation as her health is declining. There's ways to do the right thing, but which avenue do you take? I just put out on Twitter, I said, Aram could use some help. What would you suggest? And I loved it. I literally read 1,000 comments of what to do, what not to do, different, opposite advice. And I was reading it, and I was like, wow, I've actually thought of all these things and had to kind of find my way and navigate within the writing and the choices. So we have to be in service of the writers, but it is sort of fun to kind of see how other minds work and so. But I was really sort of awkward with Twitter in the beginning. I joined after the show, season 2, end of season 1. I was really wary of sort of social media but now that it becomes if you use it in the right ways and in the right kind of, it can be a great forum if you use it to promote and encourage, as opposed to just a bunch of talking heads. That doesn't interest me at all. There's enough of those around. Anyway.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the writers.
If there was any one thing you can have the writers put in for your character, what would you do?
I would really, really like to know what the relationship is with Cooper and Reddington. Like, what it was when we first encountered each other, because I believe outside maybe, I don't think Liz would have been born when I knew him in the Navy, because that's probably where he engaged with Katerina Rostova. And that's the mother's name, is Katerina.
Masha's?
Yeah, Katerina Rostova. He was doing some work for the Navy, and I think that's where some counterintelligence type stuff. So I think that I've known him longer than anybody else represented as a regular on the show. I would love to see that explored. Why I said what I said, which is that really is him. Why we didn't draw his blood right away, because I think we did draw his blood right away. Why that wasn't processed, or was it? What does Cooper know about this man that he isn't telling me? And I think that's I think it's a lot. I think that Cooper reveals about 5% of his knowledge on a episode by episode basis. That is, he knows way more about these characters than he's letting on. And so is there some sort of collusion? Is there a counter initiative or operation that's going on? Because something's underneath that.
I feel like we will find out. We will find out at some point towards the end. Every sort of hope I've had for the character each season has then happened. Like every sort of a dream as an actor to get to do this in the role, as I wanted a girlfriend, I got a love triangle. And now I'm dealing with things that I can't even have imagined. So I'm really like sitting back and being like, wow, the scripts are continually surprising me. The double episode coming up this Friday. When I saw those scripts, my mouth was on the floor. Couldn't believe what was happening, how it was happening, what I had to go through. I'm really excited to see those. So at this moment, just to live another day, just to hope to continue to live another day and stay on the show. We talk about this sometimes. It's really great to get getting a lot of Samar storyline, but it's also great to just go back to the original function and solve cases too. And so it's really exciting when you get to flex the acting muscles and go out and deal with romance and pain and death and everything. And then, but on the other hand, also just to do your job and be an FBI agent. And what really is interesting, and this is a lot of the acting too, is to be an FBI agent knowing the circumstances that you're going through. I mean, we still have to show up to work. I'll never forget the episode where Liz, quote unquote, died, that we believed she died. It was a fake death. And I had to go to, I didn't really talk about this in the panel. My character had smoked a joint, given a eulogy at a funeral, cried, and then we had to go back to work and solve the case. And I was like, how do you go back to work when you're mid-grieving, inebriated? Those challenges continue to be exciting. I had to make a wish. I am curious about Aram's family. I'd like to meet his parents or any siblings. I just think that would be rife for some comedy. But that's really most of that. I can't. If that doesn't happen, I'm still a very happy camper.
How much research of the FBI did you have to do before you took on the role?
Say that again. How much research?
Of the FBI did you have to do before taking on the role?
I'm gonna let him answer that.
Well, my brother's been in law enforcement, or was in law enforcement. He's now the head of security for his college alma mater campus. And by the way, it's the 4th safest campus in America. Greenville University is the 4th safest college campus. And you never heard of it, probably. But that's how good he is at his job. And before he was there, he wasn't on the radar. That said, I'm also dear friends with many FBI agents and former agents, particularly African American special agents, the AASA. They have given me a lot of information. Mostly they solve crime like the old-fashioned way, by going out and interviewing people and beating the pavement and using their technologies. Now, obviously, they have a whole lot more technology these days. But most of those cases, it's nowhere nearly as sleek as it is on the Blacklist. Like, we're not in, the FBI agents aren't in those kinds of offices with all of that, with all those bells and whistles. That's Hollywood, but that said, they do a tremendous job and don't get a whole lot of credit. And I was a huge skeptic of the FBI for many years for many reasons. Primarily, the workings of J. Edgar Hoover and what they did to the civil rights movement, how they decimated or infiltrated many organizations, including the Nation of Islam and the SCLC and all of these, where I have many friends. So I think that they have taken to heart, and I have to give former Director Comey some credit. The black agents loved Comey. He went out of his way. He kept the surveillance letter from Hoover to look into the Kennedys and also into Dr. King on his desk in a laminated thing, because he wanted that never to happen again. And I think that when you have that kind of abuse or that kind of a rogue action of an agency that is supposed to protect people but winds up actually not doing that, it really is an opportunity. And I believe that the FBI sees that opportunity. So that was my research, is just talking to them, knowing them.
I don't think I should follow that. I really don't. I will say this. When you see, a lot of times you'll see Aram at the computer desk, Harry is next to me, Harold Cooper is next to me, overseeing, and we're on the phone with Liz and Wrestler or Samar in the field, and between takes, it's me and him. There's my research. We talk a lot, and this man is a wealth of information. I would answer that in more simple terms. As an actor, I do my research episode to episode. So if my character is speaking on something that I don't know anything about, because my characters came from the NSA. I didn't come up through FBI. I believe I was sworn in as an FBI agent to join this task force, and the mythology of it, it's written on a website. Harold Cooper recruited Aram from the NSA. So he really is, so when he speaks on a lot of these things, these sort of topics, information, I just make sure I know what I'm saying as best I can. And with all the computer stuff, we have 2 computer guys that basically run the video playback, which actually is the automation of the screens that you see, and they've become good friends of mine because I've been working with them just as like my 7th scene partner on the show. They'll answer questions, and so I've got my function is to make that look believable, but at the same time, speak you know, and I see online when like coders are like, that's incorrect or that's inaccurate, but at the same time, we're in service of a fictional TV show that has to create something sensational on a computer screen too. So you have to serve as much as you can, but you also have to honor the, you know, and then a couple times we'll speak to the writers if there's something that may be factually incorrect that we can catch and so forth. But I think we're being timed out.
No worries. It's funny how people forget that the show is just scripted.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you.